This story happened back in November 2019. For background, I'm a 20-year-old female and I live with my family. I go to a community centre twice a week with my family, and we've been going since forever, and I haven't had any problems before. This new man began attending, and of course he was welcomed. He was in his 40s or 50s, and was relatively neatly kept. He would stand near the lobby doors and just stare around at people. Quite quickly I noticed that he didn't really talk to anyone, and any conversations he had ended rather fast. As an antisocial person, I never paid too much attention, nor did I really attempt conversation. I just let him be. 2 weeks into him attending, he came up and began talking to me and my sister. We were in the front, in the opposite corner, and he made a bit of a beeline from where he was standing at the back to us. I had no idea who he was, and of all the days I decided to be conversational. So I had a normal enough conversation with him, and my sister barely said a word. He looked over at her and asked me who was the tallest. I'm the second of 4 children, and with all my pride I said I was the tallest. He kept quiet and asked me, what did I do to my sister when she was too shy? We both were kind of confused, and I was like, what? He said, yeah, when she's too shy, do you just shake her? I kind of laughed it off awkwardly and was like, no. I don't remember the rest of the conversation, but it ended pretty soon after that. Me and my sister were kind of weirded out, and I was mostly confused, as that was one of the stupidest things I've ever heard. I would have brushed it off when a friend of ours who saw him talking to us came over and basically was like, I don't know all the details, and I don't want to make a big deal out of it, but just try not to engage with him and keep your younger brother away from him. She knew him before we did, so we took her advice. There was nothing to be dramatic about. Just don't talk to him. Fine by me. But for the sake of my baby bro, who's 5, I mostly wanted to protect him. Later on, my brother was going to the coat room, and the same guy stopped him and tried talking to him. He kept trying to give my brother a high five and was leaning rather close. My brother is super shy, so he was trying to get away. I don't know what came over me, but within 0.2 seconds, I was by my brother's side. I was like, oh, I'd better go put his coat on. And he glared at me and was like, what are you going to do with my little friend? I repeated that I was going to put his coat on. He looked at me head on, well, chest, and said, take care. To me, I wanted to give him the benefit of the doubt, and so I didn't consider it for too long. It was kind of creepy though. Over the next few times, he made little attempts to interact with me, so that was that, I figured. However, he would stand at the lobby doors, now equipped with what looked like a giant Bluetooth device with a green beeping light, but it was strapped around his head. I figured it was an old-style Bluetooth phone, but I found that less and less people would try and interact with him. I thought what was on his head was funny, but what made me uneasy was that he would stare at me almost the entire time. I mean, like, stare. Like into my very being. He would have this creepy smile and follow me around at a safe distance. I was freaked out, and my friends made a bigger deal of it, though I didn't get why. One night, I had a few of those friends over, and they revealed to me that the device on his head was actually a camera. I was horrified. He was videotaping people in a public place without their consent. Now, many of you might say what we did next was idiotic, but we were just a bunch of silly girls, and all we wanted to do was see his Instagram profile, and then unfollow him. That's it. He has like 3 profiles, so we were all laughing and wondering what he posts. So my friend made another profile, and he accepted. We scrolled through his profile, and his captions were so odd. We were having our fun, but pretty soon, he messaged. The fake profile we had a normal selfie of a pretty girl. We all flipped and decided to see what will happen. Remember, we weren't going to lead him on or anything. He asked questions such as, "What is your exact location? How old are you?" He didn't reveal his age, and didn't care when she replied, saying she was like 30 years younger. Either we said between 19 or 21. He kept trying to video call on Instagram, but there was no way in heck we were going to pick it up. It was the last straw when he was like, "If you were really a good person, you would show yourself. It's not like I'm touching you. Yet. It's only a video call." He did not get the concept of trust and consent, despite us explaining it to him. It simply didn't make a difference to him. That was it for me. Full-fledged proof he was a creep. We deleted the account. My friend, Edna, said that he has a thing for younger girls and children, and has been looking for a wife, which made me shiver. So I made sure I, my sister, or my brother was never in a place where they could be alone with him. The creepiness continued. He would be videotaping me while staring at me intensely, trying to interact. It became pretty clear that I was his next target. Edna's family is pretty familiar with him, and what he does is he'll essentially creep women to death, ask them out, and he has followed them home before. Basically the works. Apparently he was pretty notorious for it. I was getting more scared by the day, and I would dread going. He would follow me, and my heart seized when I saw his eyes. My friends made a joke of it, and said it was only a matter of time. I don't blame them for cracking jokes. They didn't know about all the things he was doing. And they did block me when they caught him staring. Dads would try to distract him, blocking his view of us, but he would ignore them and keep staring into me. It all reached a boiling point when one day he got close to me before we went. I was so scared to see him. I was remembering a while ago I told someone about the camera and to tell him to take it off. I pointed to where he usually was, and he was not there. I slyly walked about to see if I could spot him, and he was among a bunch of people staring directly at me. I was so far away from him, and he smiled in a way that he was happy I found him, and waved, and I ran back before he could get more of me on tape. So yeah, I didn't want to go. That day, he was actually in closer proximity to me than usual, and I was getting a workout constantly moving about to avoid him. Eventually, me, my mum, Edna and her mum were in the coat room, which is a pretty open space. He came in and I was shoving my mum out of the coat room so we can leave, and from the corner of my eye, he was rushing. I gave my mum one more little push, and she was out of the coat room. Then he grabbed my arm and yanked me 6 or 7 feet backwards, until we were in the middle of the coat room. I turned to look at him, and his eyes were something I wouldn't mind gouging out. I hated the way he made me feel when he looked at me. I can't even remember what he asked me, but I responded quickly and freed myself, realizing that he was still holding on. I proceeded to take my mum outside, because my mum was ready to draw blood. Edna's mum was asking me if I was okay, but I had too much on my mind. My dad was in the car with the rest of my siblings, unaware of what happened. I begged my mum to get into our car before he came, and I suddenly became scared that he might follow us home. So we left. We almost never get fast food, but I'm so glad my dad took us to McDonald's, and not just for the food. The rest of my family stayed in the car to hear what happened, while I went into McDonald's with my brother. 10 minutes later, my mum barged in the store and told me to get out while she gets the food. I was confused, and thought she was mad at me because I was taking too much time. And I was like, fine, because apparently I can't carry a Happy Meal and fries by myself. I turned, and there he was, with his portable camera. He was waving at me, while pointing his camera to me. It was mounted on his head, so wherever his head was turned was where the camera was facing. I looked over at my mum and realised why she came in so fast. He followed us to the McDonald's, parked next to our car, which is where my mum saw him and hurried in. We left as quickly as we could, giving him no time to leave the line and come follow us. I was very shaken. I've had my fair share of heart-dropping, creepy moments, and I always thought that I would know what to do next time it happened. Those thoughts were for like spontaneous attacks. When it came to public interactions, trying to keep my brother away, I could do nothing, and I felt so stupid. I was terrified that he would follow us home. We skipped going next time. One day, we were later than usual going to the community centre, and I saw his car and was like, great, now what am I going to do? But no him. It took a few days, but it was eventually revealed that the time we were not there, he was interacting with kids under 10 in an inappropriate way, looking for excuses to touch them and hugging them for too long. They were being videotaped, and honestly, goodness knows what he needed hours of mundane footage of young girls and underage boys and girls for. It was the last straw for my parents there, and the day we came late, the dad army barred him from coming in, saying that he is perfectly welcome to come in, only if he takes the camera off. He got agitated, saying it was not a camera. I had proof from this Instagram that the gadget was a camera, and he took a mirror photo with it, and had no phone or other camera. He threatened violence, and the police was called. I've heard he's out and about, but let's just say he's not coming back anytime soon. Over the next few weeks, I heard from people who were more familiar with him that he definitely had a thing for me, and that his behaviour is not unusual, and it was just a matter of time. I'm so glad it's done. I still get thoughts sometimes that he's watching me, but for the most part, I can go back to normal.